A loud explosion rang out as the volcano burned fiercely. The hot air that the mountain radiates causes neighboring cities to also be affected. Waves of black smoke spread out to occupy the clear blue sky. Red sparks began to fly and scatter in the air. In the sky, thunder and lightning erupted like long snakes slowly moving. Helicopters were also working at full capacity to pick up people in neighboring cities to safety. In a bus full of people evacuating from the disaster, a man wearing a blue shirt kept cursing. A few days ago, the earthquake under the sea of Mount Fuji spraying greetings led to several days of hundreds of people died. A hot, beautiful girl sat next to a man looking worried. The girl wore a pink dress that penetrated her white skin as smooth as premium silk, her hot breasts hidden behind the thin shirt. She said it was dangerous and left in a hurry. She didn't bring anything and could only go to Jiangnan City to buy a few things. The man broke out in a cold sweat. He said, "Doesn't the girl watch the news? The items in Walmart and alley warehouses in Jiangnan City have all been purchased." The girl shouted in a clearly surprised tone, "What?" But immediately a bald-haired man sitting across from them said, "That's old news, today is Ho Dong. Shen Citadel's Ming is also gone, Dai Nguyen Dong's warehouse has also been moved." The girl and the man immediately looked panicked and said in unison, "No, these supplies combined must cost several hundred billion." Suddenly an ice-cold voice interrupted their words. "It must be tens of thousands of billions. The disappearance of supplies and these natural disasters are all symbols. Wipe your eyes and see the end of the world has come." In front of the girl appeared a handsome guy. But his expression was cold. The boy sat with his chin empty and looked cruel. The girl covered her mouth. It seemed like the boy's words made her unable to digest in time. After a while she said, "No, the end of the world." The man in the blue shirt also disagreed with the young man's words. He narrowed his eyes and said, "What are you joking about? If it's really the end of the world, he's a little looking forward to it. At that time, all living beings will be equal." The young man pondered. He wondered, are all living beings equal? Even if it's the end of the world, there won't be a day when all beings are equal. Because the boy has personally experienced it. In his previous life, he was just a normal food delivery worker. That day was like any other normal day. The guy was still on his way to deliver. He witnessed the end of the world with his own eyes. Because of the abnormal spread of solar energy, his inner core began to rapidly expand and the temperature increased. Movements of the Earth's crust often occur. Monsters hiding under the Earth also follow and come to the surface. The entire world changes to form a new world, a new order. In the world, supplies are extremely scarce. Even if it's just a package of noodles or a sausage, you have to pay the price. Just like that, the beautiful world suddenly became a pile of rubble. People lost their reason due to hunger and thirst. There is nothing bad they won't do. They fight and kill each other over food and drink, not using any dirty tricks. Men kill each other, women sell their bodies. The situation turns crazy. There is no more human love. And the boy is resurrected from the end of the world like that until a month before the end of the world. Suddenly, a gentle voice interrupted the boy's thoughts. The girl gently held his hand. She called, "Brother," in a shy tone. Her cheeks turned pink and she leaned close to him. "Young man." That soft part also accidentally rubbed against his body, she said. Hearing him say that just now made her a bit scared. The boy didn't wait for her to finish and immediately interrupted. He got away from the girl, waved her hand and said, "Sorry," he had more important things to do. The girl looked at the boy's straightforward look and became suspicious of her own charm. She stood shyly as if rooted to the spot. The young man stepped off the bus. In his heart he secretly calculated, what is the most important thing about the end of the world? Of course it was supplies. He looked at the skyscraper in front of him. That was where his previous life was. The young man used to work. In his previous life, all his time was wasted searching for supplies. This time he told himself to prepare well. He took the uniform from the clothes rack and quickly put it on. The boss, after seeing the young man's figure, directly blamed him. "You were 21 seconds late, deducting half a day's salary." Even though he is the male lead, he cannot escape the excessive oppression of capitalists. I sigh for him, but the guy, extremely obediently admitting his mistake, he rubbed his hair and told the boss, "Sorry." But in the next second the boy's expression completely changed. His cold eyes remembered his previous life, before Doomsday Boss also runs ahead. His yearly salary was lost, these materials were considered as compensation for him. The boy slowly walked with his black shoes hitting the ground making a sound in the quiet space. The boy continued. Well said, let me take it all. He waved his hand and read the command. The space opened according to the boy's words. A large space appeared. That space radiated blue light like a giant pearl. Then a screen appeared. The system displays a notification to check for essential supplies, all of which are automatically absorbed into the young man's space. The young man opens his arms wide, that is his ability, a different space. All the supplies slowly moved into space. The shelves filled with supplies at first also completely disappeared. The guy just needed to open the space, everything around him would move forward. Into the spacious stereoscopic space. 1,000 meters high according to the boy's thinking, providing great convenience when the boy buys things for $0. Based on this ability, the young man drained 2 lakes, harvested everything in the city that was destined to be destroyed in the end of the world. He was pleased to look at the fish swimming freely in front of him. In the apocalypse, a package of noodles is also a luxury item. Not to mention fresh food, but time here stops and the food remains fresh no matter how long. The boy was moved to tears. In the end he didn't have to eat dirt like in the apocalypse in the previous life. The system displayed the harvest he received this time. The young man was satisfied. He silently exclaimed that he had obtained so many supplies, he could finally be satisfied. At the same time the boss along with 2 other people entered the warehouse. He ordered 2 employees to quickly move the box out. But the 3 people's eyes were met with an extremely strange scene. The supplies had all disappeared. 3 people wondered if they were dizzy or not. The boss saw the young man standing there and immediately asked, "Where are all the things here?" The young man looked leisurely. He took back the space and replied in a calm voice, "I took everything away." The 3 people who heard that immediately shouted, "What?" Looking at the young man's calm expression as if nothing happened, the boss immediately cursed him as a bastard. Then he ordered the 2 employees to hurry up and catch him for me. The boy still looked calm and took a step back. A transparent door appeared. The other employee quickly stepped forward to catch him, but before they could touch the boy, he disappeared. The other 2 delivery men could only catch nothing, before completely disappearing the naughty boy. Waving goodbye to them, "Bye." The 3 people were immediately bewildered. The 2 staff members seemed to not believe their eyes as they continuously looked around searching. The boss was so surprised that his face was deformed, he could only stammer and say, "Disappeared." Outside the building, the space appeared again. Next, the boy appeared. He somersaulted in the air and landed safely in an extremely cool position. He looked at the disappearing space door and felt satisfied. This was his second superpower. Space leap, can penetrate space within 3 meters. To the end of the world. Based on this ability, he can enter ruined buildings to search for supplies and then retreat safely. Even in the face of mutated beasts, jumping through space can still save one's life at a critical time. The young man took off his uniform and happily threw it in the air, continuing to say, "Then let's do it." $0 buy transaction ended. The young man strode confidently along the main road. The early morning sunlight shone on the young man's tall body, casting a long shadow. Suddenly the phone rang. He looked at the message on his phone and wrote, "In the immediate future, the Earth's intense movement will cause local natural disasters. The people are on guard. Everything can be controlled for now. It will not affect the people's daily lives. Please don't panic." The boy looked at the government's announcement and thought, "The government is afraid of causing panic. Do you know the end of the world is coming?" The phone bell continued to ring, showing that there was an incoming call. The boy squinted. Eyes, face as if covered by a layer of cold bones. He looked at the caller's name, Zhang Xiaochen. His hands holding the phone were shaking. He thought to himself, "Is that her?" The boy adjusted breath again. Then he picked up the phone. He said, "Hey." An impatient female voice rang out on the phone. She called the boy Su Chen, then scolded the boy, "Yet you play the missing game with her. Why are you still hanging the house with a broker? Su Chen is so unreliable. Do you think if you sell the house, will any girl still be willing to follow you?" The girl on the other end of the line was putting on her makeup. In front of the mirror, her red lips were still constantly scolding Su Chen for not being there. A man's responsibility, even though she doesn't pay attention to his house, she is a girl after all. If Su Chen doesn't give her the house, she won't feel safe with him. Behind her appeared a chaotic bed scene. A man was still sleeping on that bed. The way they dressed was also not neat. It seemed like those two people had secretly done bad things behind Su Chen's back. Hearing this, the young man gradually lost patience. He asked in a low voice, "Is there anything else?" The girl raised her voice. What kind of attitude did she have when she said that to Su Chen? "She will give you a chance, now immediately go back and move the house for her. If not, don't fail to marry her." The boy was impatient. He immediately hung up, leaving only a sentence, "I'm on my way back to Chengdu. Let's talk later." The boy looked thoughtful and signed. Memories of his past life appeared. Su Chen looked into the distance before his eyes, but it was as if he was looking at that girl named Zhang Xiaochen. His tone was as cold as ice. In his previous life, he lived with her for 5 years at the end of the world. He went everywhere looking for supplies to raise Zhang Xiaochen, led her to safety. If it weren't for Su Chen, she would have starved to death in the apocalypse. But she, the boy, looked at the screen that was turned off. Her lover's name was Wang Haoyu. He stabbed Su Chen in the back and took her life. I still remember his dirty, smug tone when he said in my ear, "Brother Chen, why do you keep coming back empty-handed lately? Surely the good stuff isn't all hidden?" At that time, the boy trembled and fell in the corner of the dark room, his whole body bleeding in pain, making his face pale. Su Chen witnessed with his own eyes the couple on the big bed. Wang Haoyu slowly unbuttoned his shirt. He looked at Zhang Xiaochen lying below. Her body revealed a despicable appearance looking at him. Her cheeks were red and her white skin was soft. Wang Haoyu couldn't help but say that Su Chen was useless. Zhang Xiaochen interrupted him, pushed him, then said, "Don't think she doesn't know what he's thinking. Su Chen is useless now that he's dead, but whether Wang Haoyu is useless or not will only be known by his performance tonight." Su Chen looked at the dirty scene before his eyes in anger. Blood kept flowing out and wetting his face. Su Chen finally bled to death. In his previous life, he really died unjustly, yet he gave his trust to that kind of person. But this time, Wang Haoyu and Zhang Xiaochen, he will make them pay. The young man clenched his fists and asserted, "Those two people will not die easily. The pain he has to go through will make that couple experience it 100,000 times." Suddenly remembered something, Su Chen released his palm. He breathed, took a long breath, then calculated, the remaining things could only be bought with money. He checked his contacts and called the person named Manager Lu on the other end, who quickly picked up the phone. Su Chen immediately said that his house could be sold at half price, but he only needed cash. Right now. Su Chen quickly returned to Chengdu. The taxi stopped in front of a subdivision. Zhang Xiaochen and Wang Haoyu were already standing in front of the door waiting for him. Zhang Xiaochen crossed his arms over his chest, and Wang Haoyu held a baseball bat as if to threaten him. Scare Su Chen. Zhang Xiaochen looked annoyed. She said, "Does Su Chen know how long she has been waiting?" However, Su Chen did not pay attention to her appearance. He passed by and quickly entered the subdivision. Wang Haoyu shouted. His face was upset. He scolded, "Who let Su Chen sell his and Yang's house? Xiao Chen, do you believe that he made Su Chen unable to see tomorrow's sun?" Su Chen was angry. He was able to lift Wang Haoyu up with just one hand. Wang Haoyu's face looked panicked. Before he could regain his composure, Su Chen strangled him tightly due to lack of oxygen and he struggled continuously. Su Chen threw Wang Haoyu to the ground like he was throwing away a broken item. His voice was cold. "Let him do whatever he wants with his stuff." Wang Haoyu's head hit the ground. He screamed in pain. A voice in pain, his eyes widened. He seemed very shocked and scared. Zhang Xiaochen with her round breasts was now going crazy and quickly rushed forward to grab Su Chen's shirt angrily. "Let go, what are you doing? Someone quickly save my life?" Without waiting for her to continue rambling, Su Chen gave Zhang Xiaochen a slap that sent her flying away immediately. She fell to the ground, her whole body trembling. Her two plump peaches kept moving. "So it shakes." Her expression was more surprised than in pain. Her eyes shrank. One hand was on the ground and the other was holding the cheek that Su Chen had just beaten. This slap was very shocking. She couldn't believe that Su Chen dared to hit her like that. On this side, Wang Haoyu is no different from a fish lying on the cutting board, about to die because of Su Chen's terrible power. His face was pale and frowned, and he repeatedly shouted, "Let go." As soon as he saw that vile appearance, Su Chen couldn't help but laugh sarcastically. His eyes immediately revealed a murderous aura. Accompanied by the cold words, "Rest assured, your dog's life will not die so soon." As soon as Wang Haoyu saw that figure that seemed to have grown 2 more legs, he continuously retreated, holding his neck and coughing. His lowly appearance didn't even make him want to look at him, so Su Chen brushed his butt off and left proudly. As soon as he saw Su Chen leave, Zhang Xiaochen ran to Wang Haoyu's side and asked, "Even though he looks so vile and dirty, he lives like a leech, how can he die?" Seeing his lover like that, Zhang Xiaochen shouted loudly, "Quickly kneel down and apologize before I get angry. If not, don't dream of marrying me for the rest of your life." Despite her aggressiveness, Wang Haoyu could only sit next to him, hugging his neck in fear. Su Chen had now turned around to save her. Gave them cold eyes. Eyes that made those two afraid of peeing blood and immediately running away. But did not forget to leave the villain's line, "Wait for it." After watching their antics, Su Chen did not forget to show a disparaging look at the trash people. Transitioning the scene to another place, the old man very respectfully offered tea in front of Su Chen with both hands. "Mr. Su, I spent money to buy back your house, now how do you feel?" On the outside you were happy, but on the inside he was laughing, thinking Su Chen was a fool. The house costs 100 million, but this guy sold it for 70,000. If I just sell it to someone else, I can earn tens of thousands. If this isn't intellectual disability, then what is? Despite all the flattery, Su Chen still didn't forget about the money. He said, "Maybe, but you still have to pay in full." "Can you pay today?" Hearing that, he felt like he had found gold. He replied, "Of course you can. Now let's quickly sign the contract and pay. Next week it will be transferred." Su Chen immediately took the contract and read it once before nodding in agreement. "But in my heart, I had an evil thought. At that time, I will let you choose a house to see if you dare to live in it." A moment later, a notification from the bank rang out. 700,000 yuan was paid. Transferred to your bank account. After everything was done, Su Chen immediately left that place thoughtfully. Although many unlucky things happened today, Chengdu is located inland in the central plain. Things like earthquakes, tsunami, volcanic eruption all happened very far from here. Life here is still very orderly. Leisurely, suddenly an advertisement appeared next to Su Chen, lending. Right after that he was attracted by it and stopped to watch for a long time. Moments later a phone call came through. "Hello. Is this the loan company? Do I have a mortgageable real estate certificate?" The scene changes to the bottom of a skyscraper. It turns out that this is Han Hai Loan Limited Liability Company. Inside the room came a voice full of skepticism. "Beautiful guy. Boy, is this house worth a lot? How much can I borrow?" It turned out to be Su Chen's voice. On the outside he was happy, but on the inside he secretly thought, "Yeah, it's this guy. He is Wang Haoyu's big brother named Wang Dehai, who died in the mouth of a strange beast in his previous life." The name Wang Dehai with yellow hair was smoking a cigarette, looking at Su Chen with disdain in his eyes, bidding, "At most 500,000. But the house certificate must be placed with me." Thought that Su Chen would hesitate, but did not expect him to bluntly ask for an additional 100,000, then finalize it. In addition, he firmly guaranteed that all the money would be returned to him within a week, and after speaking, he pushed the house certificate to Wang Dehai. As soon as he heard this, Wang Dehai couldn't help but laugh sinisterly, thinking, "So he's a gambler. Just stick to this, and even your own parents dare to sell. Let's see if I will kill you today or not." Although he thought so in his heart, on the outside he was still very affable while smoking and replied, "Just leave the house certificate behind. Here, other things are easy to talk about." Later Su Chen's bank account announced, 600,000 yuan has been transferred to this account. Zhang Xiaochen is still very bitter. "I was so angry that I gritted my teeth and looked towards Wang Haoyu. I just want to take back the house that belongs to me. What's wrong? This scum dares to slap me." I will definitely make him pay." While she was still holding her grudge, Wang Haoyu could only stand behind. His whole body trembled and he hugged his neck. He said, "Damn it. I must let this son of a bitch pay. I must let Big Brother kill him." While discussing it, a familiar figure appeared in front of them. Belongs to none other than Su Chen, who just got out of work. Wang Dehai's company. As soon as she saw that figure, Zhang Xiaochen couldn't help but quickly call Wang Haoyu. Wang Haoyu quickly looked to see if that guy is Su Chen. Hearing that, Wang Haoyu also quickly came over with a surprised expression. "What is it? It's him. What is he doing here?" Without waiting for Wang Haoyu to continue speaking, Zhang Xiaochen hurriedly, "Follow him quickly, see what he is doing." On this side, Su Chen had already walked to the front of the Green City Hotel, looking at the huge hotel. In front of Su Chen recalled his memories. In memory, many commercial buildings were overwhelmed by the impact of the rushing seawater. The cold froze quickly and everything collapsed instantly. But this Green City Hotel alone can withstand these types of natural disasters until the end. I heard that the presidential suite is extremely well equipped with amenities, not only that, but also a swimming pool. On the contrary, I can use this place as a base to stay for a long time, which is not bad. Thinking of doing so, Su Chen went inside. As he walked, he looked carefully at everything around him. He thought, before that, although there were many warehouses that were empty, there were no hot foods or vegetables in the warehouses. Su Chen's attitude caught the attention of one of the staff members, who immediately came over to greet him enthusiastically. "Hello, I am the catering manager of this hotel named Lu Xinrui, can I help you?" Honestly, this girl has an extremely good-looking body, a plump bust and buttocks, not only that, but also a slim waist. Smooth, rosy, white skin. After being asked, Su Chen quickly responded, "Hello, I want to order 1,000 banquet tables, is that possible?" As soon as he heard this, Lu Xinrui had a panicked look on his face. He couldn't believe his ears and had to ask again, 1,000 banquet tables? After regaining her composure, she nodded repeatedly, "How can you not accept such a large order?" "Of course it's possible. Here there are 5,000 per table and 10,000 per table. Not only that, there are also 30,000 and 100,000 above." At this moment, Lu Xinrui's heart was very nervous. Oh my god. Young people these days have such a brave spirit. I didn't expect that he would be an underground tycoon. As for Su Chen, after hearing the prices, without hesitation he chose the price of 10,000 a table. He will deposit 50,000 in advance after delivering it to the address I give. 1 week later I will pay the remaining amount. After speaking, his face showed a smug look, but he still did not forget to judge in his heart. I didn't expect Green City Hotel standards to be so high. And Lu Xinrui, after seeing the customer's tolerance, was flustered. Replied, "Is it okay to deposit 500,000 in advance? Then I'll bother you to come here to pay." Then thought to yourself, the cost of raw materials alone is up to 500,000. But because being able to build relationships with rich people like this is well worth it. The most important thing in business is learning how to behave tactfully. Said, and then she turned to probe Su Chen. "I don't know how to call you sir," hearing that he just said coldly. The name was Su Chen. As soon as she learned the name, she continued to ask, "Don't you know Mr. Su wants to get married?" Afraid that if he said it, Lu Xinrui would think he was crazy, so he could only reluctantly reply, "Yes, it's convenient to book an additional presidential room for me." After completing everything, Su Chen immediately left that place. As he walked, he thought, "I'm so happy that the food costs 1 million, but I already paid a deposit of 50 million. As for the final payment in this extremely hot apocalypse, even a small piece of ice is worth hundreds of millions." On this side, Lu Xinrui is still very happy about the recent business deal. Oh my god. This is the presidential suite for that honeymoon. Whoever marries him will definitely be very happy. While she was having fun, she stopped when Zhang Xiaochen and Wang Haoyu arrived. Lu Xinrui calmed down and continued talking to them. "May I ask you?" Without waiting for Lu Xinrui to continue speaking, Zhang Xiaochen hastily greeted, "Hello, I have something to ask." "What did the person just come here for?" "He is Su Chen, my boyfriend." As soon as she heard this, Lu Xinrui said everything without any concealment. "Your boyfriend just booked 1,000 table party at our place." Not only that, the deposit of 500,000 yuan has also been paid. You're truly lucky to have such a boyfriend. After speaking, Lu Xinrui couldn't help but secretly evaluate Zhang Xiaochen. This girl is also considered a 7-point, and her temperament is not as good as me. Is your taste in money so strange? Thinking about it, he couldn't hide his regretful expression. While Zhang Xiaochen and Wang Haoyu couldn't believe it and shouted, it's impossible for him to have money to spend. Order 1,000 banquet tables? Lu Xinrui heard that and immediately took out his phone and replied calmly, people with money like to play games like hiding their identities. Because I'm worried that the other half has plans for my assets, I'll wait until the wedding day to announce it. As she spoke, she looked at Zhang Xiaochen. Hearing this, she couldn't help but immediately ask Lu Xinrui with a serious expression, so before they got married, they suddenly played the game of disappearing. What about mental violence? Wang Haoyu next to him couldn't believe his ears at this time. His face looked like he had been constipated for a long time and was constantly making nonsense. That damn Su Chen actually has money? Not to let them continue to doubt, Lu Xinrui took out evidence that Su Chen had paid the deposit, that is. Of course, you should quickly look at the 500,000 that you just transferred. At this time, the expressions of Zhang Xiaochen and Wang Haoyu have completely changed. They couldn't believe their eyes. After investigating everything, Zhang Xiaochen and Wang Haoyu quickly left the hotel and went outside to the abacus. Su Chen actually booked 1,000 banquet tables at a 5-star hotel. Who did he want to invite? While Wang Haoyu was smoking and wondering in confusion, Zhang Xiaochen was extremely pleased. She showed a delighted smile and then deduced to herself, you don't understand this, of course it's to introduce me to the upper class. After that, I will announce my identity. As soon as he heard those wild delusions, Wang Haoyu also felt excited, his craving also appeared. He smiled evilly and asked, hee, so what should we do next? Zhang Xiaochen, without hesitation, frowned and replied, of course I have to take the initiative to attack. Give this flatterer more opportunities to proactively create. And then she fell into the illusion that she would sit splendidly on an aristocratic sofa. Dressed in the most splendid clothes with servants, lights sparkled everywhere. Just thinking about it made me unable to help but lustfully my eyes glowing. I have never imagined such a scene in my entire life. So flashy, but I didn't expect it could be done on that flatterer Su Chen. Su Chen is now sitting in a beautiful room, furniture arranged neatly, curtains is pulled out. The light from the window shining into the room further accentuated the elegance of Su Chen. At this time, he was already a rich man and had a lot of money. He is currently calculating the amount of money he has earned and spent in the past few days, selling the house for 700,000 yuan. Borrowed 600,000 yuan at high interest, ordered 550,000 yuan. But last time I couldn't buy many necessary items, I couldn't buy them. Even if you only bet 800,000, the remaining amount is not too much. Su Chen's face suddenly showed intrigue. His eyes became calculating, he smiled evilly and took out his phone to start calling. Network, it would be too unfortunate not to borrow online at this time. Thinking about things that no one dares to do. It seems like this time the male lead is determined to become the richest person after the upcoming apocalypse? Thinking of doing it, Su Chen downloaded more than 80 online loan apps at once, took pictures. 30 times each online loan is from 30,000 to 30 yuan. It seems like there is quite a lot of determination. It's true that money can control even the devil. After a while of applying pressure and then taking a photo and turning it back and forth, the phone screen displays the bank's results. Arya scans you. Your indefinite accumulation account has accumulated 977,000 yuan today. Su Chen was so tired from taking photos continuously more than 30 times, and didn't know how many times she had to turn up and down. He lay down on the bed with a sigh of relief, finally received the online loan worth 970,000 yuan. But he immediately jumped up, no more time to waste resting, there are still a lot of things need to buy. The apocalypse is about to happen, now every moment must be used to accumulate words to be able to survive that dark period. Su Chen took out his phone and reviewed the necessary things to buy: wall heater, ice maker, ice cubes, coal. These things are not available in the city. Fortunately you can buy them online, and the shipping is very fast. In an apocalypse, essential items are a prerequisite for whether you can survive or not. When the temperature changes erratically, if you don't have a heater or something to effectively reduce or increase heat, you won't be able to cope with the weather. Two extremes of hot and cold. The earth will experience unprecedented heat, every building will be hit by the sun, water will dry up. People will have to endure weather up to several dozen degrees. After the extreme heat passes, it will be extremely cold, everywhere will be covered with ice. The temperature drops to sub-zero levels. If humans cannot keep a stable temperature, death is inevitable. At that time, the decisive thing will be the supplies that each person saves. It will help a lot in coping with the weather. After going online to find a place to buy supplies, Su Chen took the opportunity to pick up the phone and call electricity to the store. First was coal. The store announced that the price of 1 ton was 2,500. He immediately generously took 2,000 tons of coal. The price is of course not a problem, but please transfer 500,000 in advance. The remaining amount will be paid after receiving the goods. Truly a sign of the nouveau riche who spends money without looking at the price. Next is the ice factory. He continues to order ice cubes, but this time he will come to meet. The sky outside still completely clear with no signs of the coming apocalypse. Su Chen was about to go out at this time. He wanted to go to the place that sells ice cubes for a moment to see the situation. Suddenly a girl in the distance waved at him. It seemed like this was an acquaintance of Su Chen. She was surprised. "Oh my, isn't this Su Chen?" She waved her hand and said with a smile to Su Chen, "I haven't seen you in a long time, Xiao Qian, and I've always thought of you." This girl turned out to be Li Na. Her best friend always bad-mouthed Su Chen behind Zhang Xiaochen's back. It was she who let Zhang Xiaochen usurp the male lead's house. It's true that the ancients said horses often go with horses. These two ladies are close friends of each other is perfect. Su Chen showed a cold expression in expressionless eyes as he looked at the two poisonous snakes and said sarcastically, "What? Do you miss my home?" At this stage, he doesn't need to respect them. Li Na looked at Su Chen's unfriendly gesture, thinking that he still remembered the past, and quickly explained to his best friend. "Hey Zhang Xiaochen, at that time I was just testing you. Why did you overdo it? Don't you know how heartbroken Zhang Xiaochen is? This poisonous snake has an extremely clever tongue and an urgent attitude. Outsiders, looking in, would not know that Su Chen was oppressing them." Following Li Na's words, Zhang Xiaochen approached Su Chen. She grabbed his sleeve and told Su Chen urgently, "Can you come with me? I'm not in a good mood. I made you angry yesterday, don't be angry anymore." Her words were also very sweet. If Su Chen didn't know her true face, I'm afraid he would have fallen into a trap. Su Chen still maintained a cold attitude and didn't care about her words. He pushed her hand away and walked forward alone, telling her to go for a walk himself. He still had something to take care of. Zhang Xiaochen was shocked by Su Chen's attitude. He has become a completely different person. "I'm no longer the weak, flattering person I once was." Zhang Xiaochen exclaimed, "What is this? This guy's acting is too similar." Seeing that Su Chen had driven away, Li Na immediately told Zhang Xiaochen that this was just a test for Su Chen. Just her. Quickly chased after her, she urged Zhang Xiaochen to quickly get in the car. The main purpose was still to chase the money that Su Chen owned. At this time, at the Ronghua stone factory, Su Chen took a taxi to come here, the factory owner. The ice maker also personally came out to welcome this VIP guest. The factory owner came forward to shake Su Chen's hand with a cheerful attitude, somewhat not believing that the young man in front of him was Boss Su. The amount of money he spent was not small. He was truly talented and young. Su Chen also warmly responded to Boss Wu. "You said you already made it clear on the phone just now, 2,000 tons of ice for eating and drinking. How long will it take to complete?" Mr. Wu patted his chest and said with pride, "Their stone factory doesn't dare to lie about anything else, but in terms of absolute work efficiency. Number 1, in just 3 days, 2,000 tons of ice for eating will be completed at 400 yuan per ton, 800,000 yuan at the final price." Su Chen didn't ask anything else and immediately took out his phone to prepare to pay. He told Mr. Wu that he would deposit 100,000 yuan in advance. 3 days later, he should deliver it to the address he gave. Boss Go smiled and said, Okay. No problem. Looking at the easy money, Mr. Wu wondered how much ice Su Chen needed. So what's the point? Is there a large-scale operation? If he still wants to cooperate in the future, there will be a more favorable price. Su Chen did not pay much attention to his words, quickly walked out to the taxi, smiled and said that he was preparing to go to Alxa Federation to do charity work. Mr. Wu was bewildered, not understanding what Su Chen was saying. Watching the taxi leaving with the young millionaire, Mr. Go looked back at the money he had just earned and exclaimed. This 800,000 yuan deal has already been negotiated. The young man's work efficiency is really high. Suddenly a taxi appeared behind him. Mr. Wu's face was a bit surprised. Someone came. Business cooperation? But this time there was no appointment. Could it be that the god of wealth smiled at him? Zhang Xiaochen and Li Na got down from the car. The two of them approached Boss Go to ask. The person just now, Su Chen, is my fiancé. What were you two talking about just now? Mr. Wu scratched his head, not understanding what was going on. This girl in front of him claimed to be the fiancé of the young man just now. Are they playing spy? But he also honestly replied, Boss Su just ordered 800,000 stones from us. Hearing this, Li Na and Zhang Xiaochen's expressions immediately panicked. It was as if thunder rang in their ears. An ordinary person would dare to use 800,000 yuan to buy stones. Now they can be sure, Su Chen is a tycoon, and on the other hand, a super tycoon. Li Na eagerly asked Boss Wu, what is Su Chen trying to do? She really wanted to know what those stones were used for. Boss Wu remembered Su Chen's words. He replied, he said he wanted to go to Alxa Federation to do charity work. Hearing this reason, Li Na and Zhang Xiaochen couldn't even imagine it. Their expressions were so panicked, they couldn't believe their ears. Oh, Xiaochen's breasts are so attractive, aren't they? Audience, haha. Returning to Su Chen's room, it was now gradually afternoon outside, the setting sun shining on the tall buildings. Su Chen sat in his room and mentally counted the things he had ordered. All the necessities and equipment had been ordered. The remaining time can safely enjoy the sunlight until the end of the world. Su Chen wanted to reward himself with moments of rest. He remembered his previous life when he was busy with business. Not to mention eating at a high-class restaurant. I don't even have time to go to a coffee shop. Right now he wants to eat a delicious meal at a luxury restaurant to make up for the deprivation in his previous life. Su Chen held the menu board in his hand and read it over. The delicious fried foie gras, the salted frog, the tongue. Duck with yellow sauce. These are all dishes that only the rich can enjoy. As expected of a high-end restaurant, the average payment cost is also 4 digits. Suddenly, a big question mark appeared on the menu, which woke me up. Su Chen's curiosity. A question mark selling 17,000? The waitress next to me explained, it's a dish personally prepared by Chef Yalin. What exactly it is depends on the chef's efforts. Su Chen heard that and was interested, so he told the waiter to order this dish for him. While waiting, Su Chen walked closer to the bookshelf and took out a book Shanghai Jane. He remembered his past life. When the incident happened, there was a strange power that caused many creatures to become abnormal. These strange beasts appearing in Shanghai Jane are very similar to the monsters in the previous life. But for these abnormalities, it's more like a hybrid. While thinking, a girl with graceful pink hair was holding a plate of food in her hand towards Su Chen. Sitting, the girl introduced herself to Su Chen as the restaurant's chef Yalin. In her hand was the dish that Yalin had prepared based on Su Chen's style. On the plate was a beautiful piece of steak. Su Chen turned around with a look of surprise in his eyes. His face was a bit awkward and sweat was flowing. This person in front of me is. In Su Chen's eyes, a very dark image of Yalin appeared. Remembering her past life, this chef was known as the Hell's Kitchen demon Duan Ya. This beautiful girl in front of her was so special. Such a scary name. In the last world, the Hell Kitchen demon had the technique to transform rotten things into delicious dishes. No one can resist temptation, but those dishes are made from the meat of strange animals and if eaten, they will surely die. Seeing that Su Chen's expression was not very friendly and was a bit cautious, Yalin thought to himself, is this young man in front of me afraid that I'll poison his food? But with the chef's warm attitude, she still happily explained. This dish is like two sides of life. One side is sautéed with cooking oil, the other side is fried with thousands of layers of flour. A piece of steak with two different flavors that people can't help but taste. Su Chen picked up his fork to try a piece, chewing and praising its deliciousness. This dish really makes people's taste buds explode. Worth the few $100,000 spent, but in his mind he still thought, if she could cook for me at the end of the world. But the budding thought was immediately dismissed. If she cooks, God knows if she poisoned the inside or not. Outside, Li Na and Zhang Xiaochen also chased here. Looking at the restaurant Su Chen entered, Li Na exclaimed, "This restaurant costs over 10,000 for one dish. Su Chen is definitely a millionaire. If Zhang Xiaochen becomes a rich woman, don't forget your sisters." Right now at the Ariascan's bar Su Chen is here. This bar is a place to spend money in Chengdu. He remembers what he used to do in his previous life. There's a millionaire spending 2 million here and I don't even know what shape the abalone is. Su Chen sat under the dim light with loud music playing. This place was originally a place to hide and play, but in those days, this apocalypse of luxury and debauchery will no longer exist. Su Chen's biggest regret in his previous life was that he had never been here once. Seeing Su Chen sitting alone, the girls here immediately gathered around to offer him drinks. The male lead also hesitantly responded. Su Chen glanced at the girl next to him. She seemed different from the other girls and just remained quiet. Sitting quietly in one place, not at all like the mood when entering a bar. The friend next to him poured wine for Su Chen and explained, her name is Yun Yun, because her boyfriend had an affair so they brought her along. She came here to play. Yun Yun, her beautiful face red from the wine, warmly recounted that her abusive boyfriend, because she wouldn't let him sleep with him, went to find an old woman. You really have no qualities. She turned to Su Chen and wondered, do all of you men really care about sleeping with women? Su Chen also did not deny this. A man's lust for lust has been eaten into his bones and cannot be changed. Hearing these words, Yun Yun could no longer sit still, directly picked up the glass of wine on the table and drank it all in one gulp. Su Chen didn't have time to stop. After drinking, he immediately put the cup down on the table and said to Su Chen, "You're handsome, are you single?" Su Chen also faltered when he saw her like this. Next, Yun Yun put on a suggestive look and leaned close to Su Chen, her face red from the alcohol. His hand also touched the sensitive spot, whispering each invitation, "So do you want?" Yun Yun's friends also encouraged her to do the right thing. That deadbeat boyfriend was not worthy of her. At this time, Zhang Xiaochen and Li Na had also gone inside the bar. The two of them looked everywhere, looking for Su Chen. In the distance, Zhang Xiaochen saw Su Chen and Yun Yun embracing each other and shouted, "Su Chen, what are you doing? Is this having an affair?" The male lead held Yun Yun in his arms and gently told her, "Go out with me." This action made Yun Yun secretly think, this man in front of him seems like a real man. To avoid the pursuit of those two unpleasant women, Su Chen held Yun Yun's hand and ran up the stairs. Behind, Zhang Xiaochen and Li Na shouted, "Su Chen, stop for me." The male protagonist held Yun Yun's hand and ran into a nearby room. He quickly locked the door, one hand still holding Yun Yun. His tone was gentle, "Sorry you two just now." Yun Yun saw Su Chen pull him into the room and an intimate scene immediately appeared in his mind. Her face was red and she gasped, saying, "That, me, this is the first time." Su Chen also realized what Yun Yun was talking about, so he immediately flicked her and said, "Are you drunk? Quickly wake up." Yun Yun suddenly got bored and cried out. Su Chen kindly reminded her these few days not to go out and stay indoors to stock up on food. Yun Yun replied, "Okay," but still wondered why he had to do that. Su Chen closed the door with a bit of regret in his heart. It was rare to have such an opportunity to leave, but the situation forced him. Outside, Zhang Xiaochen and Li Na were still actively looking for you. Su Chen saw the two of them and was not happy. At this time in a suburb, Su Chen used the money he collected to rent a very large warehouse. "I want to use this place to stock up on supplies to prepare for the upcoming apocalypse. Many containers of goods ordered by you are arriving here in droves." There was a commotion. Someone reminded, "Isn't this warehouse cold storage, afraid of the ice melting?" Su Chen stood to the side and directed the freight driver to move the heater and ice maker inside so as not to block the entrance. Put the ice stones here, that's all. Each container was arranged according to his words. All supplies were neatly arranged. Outside, Wang Haoyu was trying to get out of the crowd of people surrounding Su Chen's warehouse. His face looked confused, not understanding what the male lead was doing. He quickly went to inform Zhang Xiaochen that Su Chen had rented a large warehouse in this suburb. He bought a lot of big machinery, which even Wang Haoyu didn't know what. The transport workers hit the warehouse. Zhang Xiaochen was also extremely wondering, what exactly does Su Chen want to do? From afar, Li Na saw people from Green City Hotel carrying boxes of food to prepare for the banquet inside. With a very surprised look on his face, he immediately alerted Zhang Xiaochen next to him so that she could come and see. Inside the warehouse, the banquet was being neatly prepared by the chefs and waiters. Tables and chairs are as formal as banquets in royal palaces. The dishes are neatly arranged and decorated splendidly. Li Na saw this grand scene and immediately looked at Zhang Xiaochen and told her. Even the red carpet has been rolled out. Will Su Chen suddenly propose? Will guests from all directions then come? This wedding has also been prepared too luxuriously. Zhang Xiaochen heard Li Na's words that painted a good future. His face immediately showed a proud expression, his hands on his hips. She said to her friend, if Su Chen proposed, she would probably agree. He also called Li Na over to see how sincerely the male lead treated him. It's really shameless. Su Chen, who was observing the banquet preparations and transporting all the supplies from afar, suddenly noticed. To Zhang Xiaochen coming, she saw the male lead and immediately said, Su Chen, what are you buying so much for? The male protagonist looked at Zhang Xiaochen with an expressionless face. He told her that once she arrived, he would help me move things and then tell her what he was planning to do. When she heard the change, her face immediately changed. She gritted her teeth, rolled her eyes, thinking she heard wrong. In my head thinking, what is that? She herself is about to become a wife, so why does she still have to do such things? Li Na, who was on the side, immediately reminded her that this was definitely testing Zhang Xiaochen's character. Su Chen wanted to see if Zhang Xiaochen was qualified to be a wife, but Zhang Xiaochen listened to her friend's words as if she had awakened and immediately accepted. She walked closer to the boxes, placed her hand on one, smiled wryly and said to Su Chen, okay, I'm not an arrogant woman. Wanted to put on a show for the male lead to see, carrying the box on her shoulder. Heavy stuff. She has always been cared for and pampered, of course she doesn't have to do anything, let alone something as heavy as shipping goods. Sweat immediately poured down his face, his hands and feet trembled as he walked. But in my mind, I always encouraged myself that if I wanted to become a great lady, I must have both education and personality. As long as she can pass this challenge, Su Chen will definitely marry her. Seeing her best friend preparing to become the millionaire's wife, Li Na did not want to be outdone and walked forward with a suggestive gesture. She deliberately bent down to pretend to carry a box to reveal 2 grapefruits. Using a gentle voice to fascinate the male lead Su Chen, you're handsome, I'll help you too. In his mind, he hatched a plan, thinking that there was no millionaire who wasn't lustful. As long as you show a little bit of heart, even if you can't become a wife, you can at least get a lot of benefits. Su Chen secretly smiled when he saw them like that, and thought in his heart, such free labor should not be wasted. 1,000 dining tables, 2,000 tons of ice. Even if the hotel and factory send more people, it will take a long time to complete. Now having 2 more boosters is also good. The sky gradually turned to afternoon, everything was finally completed. Zhang Xiaochen worked hard today. Now her arms and legs were so weak she couldn't stand, sweating profusely, silently cursing. Su Chen is really too much. Moving things from morning to afternoon without even a single meal. When she becomes his wife, she will definitely take all his money. Li Na next to him was no better, following along and cursing, that bastard Su Chen let us move things like that. That piece of ice must be more than 50 kilograms. Her whole body was shaking and she couldn't stand anymore. Xiaochen still encouraged herself. After checking everything, Su Chen was probably about to announce her as the bride, right? Other rich guests are probably coming soon, too. Li Na next to her feels strange. Don't the guests also feel embarrassed? It's not yet time, the food is already cold. Rich people are also very strange. Su Chen was currently talking to the delivery drivers, praising them for having worked hard today. He will pay the remaining amount according to the contract in 1 week. Not only that, each person also holds a lucky money envelope in their hand as an extra tip today. Everyone's eyes were wide open at the thickness of the envelope. There must have been 10,000 yuan in there. Seeing the reward in front of them, everyone was happy and loudly said, "Thank you, Boss Su. The best boss." On this side, Zhang Xiaochen heavily dragged her trembling body to the male lead's side and asked him what was left. What do you want to say to her or not? Still dreaming in his heart of a happy ending, he was about to become the wife of a tycoon family. Su Chen glanced at that evil woman. He coldly passed by her and said bluntly, "Thank you very much for your help, but there is no reward, so you can go," leaving Zhang Xiaochen with a surprised look on her face. Unable to believe what she just heard, she still hugged. I turned around in vain hope and asked Su Chen if he was kidding me or not. There must still be some surprises. I call the guests away. Let's get married quickly. Su Chen looked coldly at her. He said, "Marry? I also really want it. But now that he has sold the house and is in debt, does she still want to follow him?" Next to Li Na, who also heard the story, looked as panicked as Zhang Xiaochen. It's impossible for the banquet to cost more than 10 million. The restaurant cost tens of thousands. All of this. Su Chen has no money. How can this happen? Su Chen explained that all of this was because a rich man wanted to do good deeds. People want to alleviate poverty in Alishan, so he just wants to help. He himself is not capable of doing this much. Zhang Xiaochen heard this. His face changed color. Dark clouds covered his head. He gritted his teeth and said, "With the male lead. What did he mean by what he said?" She was so angry. "You bastard, dare to trick me." She immediately threw herself towards Su Chen, wanting him to pay for daring to trick her. Su Chen just gently dodged, causing Zhang Xiaochen lost her footing and fell to the ground. She crawled on the ground, still cursing Su Chen, "You bastard, you're not a millionaire. I don't want to marry you anymore. At this step you've really turned your cards up. Su Chen doesn't need to. Keep still." With cold eyes, he said directly that he did not want a money-hungry woman like her. Zhang Xiaochen heard this and immediately became angry, glaring at the male lead, gritting his teeth and speechless. Then turned around. The person who left did not forget to add a wretched curse. "Just wait and she will make the male lead regret it." Li Na also pointed her finger at him and said, "You will definitely die. You will have to pay the price for what happened today." Su Chen did not pay attention to their words. He smiled and scolded them. "Stupid, waiting until the end of the world to see what happens to you guys. There's no time to argue with these two evil women," so he closed the warehouse door and locked it carefully. Looking back at the pile of neatly arranged furniture in the warehouse, he checked again. The supplies are finally enough. Next we just need to wait until the end of the world. He opened his hand, a blue light radiated out. This is the skill he acquired after reincarnating, expanding space. Su Chen wants to capture everything in this warehouse into another dimension. In the warehouse a blue light flashes. In the evening the moon rises high in a high-rise building, the lights in each illuminated room. Inside a room the fat man announced to Zhang Xiaochen, "From now on follow Wang Haoyu, she will have good food and beautiful clothes." In Chengdu, just mentioning his face makes everyone afraid. Wang Haoyu, standing next to him, also said that Zhang Xiaochen should have left Su Chen a long time ago. "Don't let him treat and bully you like that. Wouldn't it be better to stay by my side?" Zhang Xiaochen at the side replied, "Then I'm looking forward to your performance." Wang Haoyu promised that his big brother would avenge Zhang Xiaochen. She also secretly thought that Wang Haoyu was actually not bad. His big brother is also quite wealthy in Chengdu. Being with him might be better than that damn dog, meaning that Su Chen had no idea that Su Chen was here and heard all of their conversation. While eating, he said, "This woman really isn't picky." Zhang Xiaochen was noticed by his voice and was extremely surprised. "Su Chen, why is he here?" Wang Haoyu angrily pointed at him and said to his big brother, "It was he who hit me last time." The fat guy looked at the skinny young man in front of him. He still leisurely ate his meal without paying attention to his threatening gesture. The big guy lit a cigarette and looked at Su Chen. He was also preparing to go find Su Chen, but he didn't expect Su Chen to dare to attack his younger brother. He sarcastically said that Su Chen is also very bold. Behind him 3 or 4 thugs were waiting for orders. Wang Haoyu was also surprised why his big brother knew that fat old Su Chen. Explained that Su Chen had previously borrowed 600,000 yuan from him to mortgage the house. Tomorrow will probably be the deadline. Wang Haoyu smiled and said, "It seems like this time we can pay off both old and new debts at once." Zhang Xiaochen and Li Na next to him also added, "Dare to owe money. Brother Hai seems like you won't be able to pay for it in this lifetime. Luckily, I broke off my relationship with the male lead. I really dare to borrow any money and don't know whether I will live or die." After Su Chen finished eating, he used a handkerchief to wipe his mouth. "Can you leave people alone?" The fat man approached him and said, "Tomorrow is payment day, but right now you can still sit in the restaurant and drink alcohol. This is looking down on me, right? Don't say you can earn 600,000 yuan in one day." Wang Haoyu loudly said that Su Chen couldn't do it. No need to say more and directly beat this trash to death. He dares to attack her. The hotel manager saw that the situation was not good and quickly intervened. "You guys have something to say calmly." The fat man said to the manager, "As long as she tells the male lead to kneel." He got down and apologized to him and his younger brother. The manager didn't know what to do with his suggestion. The manager turned around and asked the male lead what happened. Su Chen replied, "Nothing happened, just some random guys." The fat guy heard that and immediately got angry and argued. His big fat hand slammed down on the table and shouted loudly, "Boy, then I won't be merciful to you anymore. Today, you're done. God can't even come down here to save you." Suddenly a man's voice rang out from behind, "What are you doing?" Behind him were a number of juniors following. This man had a bold face and a beard divided into 3 parts. He frowned as he looked at the fat man and said, "Who let you guys cause trouble here?" The fat man and Su Chen simultaneously noticed the owner of the voice, a name Gao Chang, came to mind. The fat man immediately humbled himself and put on a flattering look, "Brother Chang. What are you doing here?" Gao Chang said he had something important to do here today. Whoever dares to cause trouble, he will not forgive that person. The fat guy thought to himself, this Gao Chang is a famous businessman in Chengdu with extensive connections. There are quite a few juniors under me. Don't offend. His voice immediately dropped to a lower tone. "Brother Chang, just go ahead and work. I'll come over later for drinks." Su Chen recognized that the person in front of him was Gao Chang, nicknamed the Skull Crusher. In his previous life, at the end of the world, he was a powerful force in Chengdu. His subordinate is Hell's Chef. He remembers his past life and heard that the Green City Hotel was the first place where a mutation occurred after the end of the world. It seems that Gao Chang was able to transform into a skull crusher thanks to the anti-ancestral mutation that appeared here early. Gao Chang noticed a pair of eyes following him and immediately turned his head to look at the male lead. Su Chen's eyes were cold, telling himself not to lose this opportunity to have this anti-ancestral mutation. Gao Chang also noticed something unusual in this interesting kid in front of him. Outside the hotel room, the light from the luxury room reflected outside. Only the sound of high heels hitting the floor could be heard. The long, white legs of a beautiful woman walked into the room. The owner of those beautiful white legs was Hell's Chef Yalin, followed by the skull crusher Gao Chang. As soon as he entered, he smiled and said to the person waiting in the room, "Mr. Sun, I have invited Duan Ya here." The person named Mr. Sun had been waiting for a long time and was ready to pour out a glass of wine. Duan Ya stepped forward. Her pink hair made her stand out even more. Her eyes sparkled and looked at Mr. Sun full of wonder. "I wonder why Mr. Sun is looking for me." After hearing that, Mr. Sun immediately laughed, holding a glass of red wine as bright as blood. He said that he had heard that Miss Duan was a great beauty. Today, he finally got to meet someone in person. Next, this fat guy appeared with a despicable look and looked at Duan Ya. He held the glass of wine in front of her. His eyes glanced up and down her body. The snobby, "Come on, let's have a drink," tone. Duan Ya looked at the glass of wine in front of him. 1,000 doubts arose in his heart. His face immediately tensed. Her guess was indeed correct, in that red liquid. The despicable Mr. Sun had secretly put something in there that didn't seem to be anything good. Returned to Su Chen's room, in his hand he was also holding a glass of wine. Gently shaking the thing. The fragrant wine in the glass. This male lead really knows how to enjoy it. His eyes looked towards the space in front of him, the lights of the city. From this hotel he could cover the whole city. He remembered that in his previous life, he and Zhang Xiaochen hid in the underground basement to avoid the extreme heat of the apocalypse. Su Chen suddenly mentioned Zhang Xiaochen, unexpectedly. This time I left her and she came again. Quote, said and then took a sip of wine, his eyes staring down at the swimming pool below. Su Chen wanted this time to settle both old and new hatreds at the same time. Underneath the swimming pool where Wang Haoyu and his big brother were playing. Wang Dehai also sensed something strange happening tonight and asked his old brother, do you feel that tonight is hotter than this morning? Wang Haoyu also agreed, that's right, that's why I suggested going to the swimming pool to cool down, making it convenient for the ladies to change into their swimsuits. Saying this, the two guys' expressions immediately change. Wang Haoyu smiled contemptuously and said to Dehai, thinking about the next scene, big brother, do you feel excited? Wang Dehai also followed suit, holding the toy duck tightly and imagining, that kid is very good, he really knows the opportunity. Zhang Xiaochen and Li Na had also changed their swimsuits at this time, each of them wearing different clothes. Swimsuit with very little fabric. The two of them stepped outside and felt something different about the air and temperature tonight. Li Na covered her hands in front of her face and told Zhang Xiaochen that tonight's moon feels like the sun. Zhang Xiaochen also agreed, that's right, it's so bright. Stupid Wang Haoyu didn't know the disaster was about to happen, so he held Zhang Xiaochen's hand and said sweet words. He looked up at the moon and said to her, Xiaochen, don't you see, my love for you is as beautiful as the moon tonight. This is the proof of our love. Hearing these stupid words gives me goosebumps. Zhang Xiaochen is not happy with Wang Haoyu's rude words. She complained to him, it's so hot, please take me to the swimming pool. Su Chen was still standing high above, watching through the glass. He saw the moon growing bigger and bigger. Moreover, it was also a bright red color. Hearing Wang Haoyu and Zhang Xiaochen smell so sweet, he smirked, your love is about to explode. He raised his glass of bright red wine and looked at the moon, wanting to congratulate him once. Near the end of the world. The moon now begins to get closer, radiating extreme heat. The heat from it began to seriously affect the ground. It seemed that this was no longer the gentle light that humanity knew. Wang Haoyu's people below began to feel the dizzying rise in temperature. Everyone's faces became unsightly. Unconsciously, he sensed danger. And a second later, the crowd panicked and screamed, why did the moon suddenly burn like this? That's hurt. That's hurt. In the distance, Wang Dehai, with his heavy body, is not as agile as Wang Haoyu and Zhang Xiaochen. He lazily ran after, panting, calling, wait for me. Everyone ran for their lives to avoid the light and that terrible temperature. I didn't get to the swimming pool in time. I had to go back to the hotel immediately. Everyone inside the hotel who was playing cards also realized why it was suddenly so bright outside. Wang Dehai, I wonder if anything happened to them? Another guy immediately dismissed it as, just flirting with girls. You don't understand my big brother's joy. Suddenly, Wang Haoyu's group panicked and broke the door inside before the surprised eyes of his subordinates. Everyone's bodies were grilled until they blistered and turned red. It seemed like if one step later they would turn into roasted pigs. The subordinates saw this scene, each of them gasped and wondered, what happened? Go out. Why are they all so red? As soon as Wang Haoyu entered the room, he immediately shouted for water, bring the water here quickly. Behind are Li Na and Zhang Xiaochen who are calling for help, save me, it's too hot, I'm dying, it's too burned. It seems that the injury caused by the outside temperature is not light. Suddenly Wang Haoyu looked in the distance and saw an aquarium. He was happy as if he had caught gold. Water. Finally there is water. Without thinking much, the three of them overturned the fish tank and jumped into the water regardless of the possibility of being injured by the glass. Cooled in time. Wang Haoyu breathed a sigh of relief, alive. But Li Na and Zhang Xiaochen were still greedy. Get out. This country is mine. Get out quickly. It's true that until death they still can't get rid of their bad habits. The subordinates looked at them and became naive and wondered, what's wrong with them? And where is Wang Dahai? Wang Haoyu then remembered his big brother and shouted in shock, that's right. Where is big brother? Wang Dahai, due to his chubby body not running towards the terrifying light, was burned by its lack of heat, causing blisters on his whole body. Smoke also came out from his mouth, looking like a real roasted pig. He struggled to drag his body inside, calling out, save me. The subordinates saw Big Brother being grilled and immediately shouted, Big Brother, are you okay? Burn medicine, get the burn medicine quickly. Wang Dahai angrily said Wang Haoyu dared to leave him. Wang Haoyu immediately begged Big Brother in fear. I was wrong, I will never leave you again. Returned to the room where Duan Ya Gao Chang and Mr. Sun were. After that fat and despicable guy gave Duan Ya the wine, of course she didn't drink it. The fat guy immediately expressed his displeasure. Duan the beauty doesn't drink. Gao Chang immediately spoke up to help Duan Ya, Mr. Sun, I have prepared the banquet. Mr. Sun immediately showed his superiority to the guys. Rich snobs. His words were filled with contempt. In Chengdu, no one dared not drink wine when I poured them wine. Gao Chang, this is none of your business. It seemed like he was determined to force Duan Ya to drink this glass of wine. Duan Ya looked at Gao Chang and silently scolded him in his heart, damn Gao Chang. Because he wanted to please Sun De Biao, he harmed me. It seems that Gao Chang wanted to achieve his goal and was willing to sell his friends cheaply. Looking at the fat man in front of Duan Ya, he knew that he relied on himself to single-handedly rule Chengdu. Harmed countless women, but today he must have targeted me. Looking at the glass of wine in front of Duan Ya, he knew there was definitely a problem. Tell yourself absolutely not to drink, but if not, how will you handle it? Suddenly it was bright outside. The light from that unusual moon was shining here. Sun De Biao and Gao Chang were hit directly in the eyes by that strange light and immediately turned away and cried out in pain. What's going on with my eyes? They shouted loudly, quickly close the curtain. Gao Chang looked confused and said to Sun De Biao, Mr. Sun. Something seems wrong, this can't be. Sun De Biao also agreed and told Gao Chang to quickly go downstairs to see what was going on. And only Duan Ya was left behind. She breathed a sigh of relief. This incident seemed to have saved her life, otherwise she really wouldn't have known how to handle it. Downstairs the hotel manager is trying to reassure everyone, please calm down, we have contacted the rescue team. Everyone, please wait here. But the group of people seemed extremely agitated and cursed at the manager, you can earn millions every minute. How can you waste time like that? Gao Chang asked his subordinates what the current situation was. What exactly happened to old Mao? The other guy immediately replied, just now the moon suddenly shone brightly, the temperature increased. It must have been more than 70 degrees outside. According to the news, there are nearly 100 people injured. Mr. Sun immediately took out his phone to call someone, Minister Zhao, we are at Green City Hotel. Can you send someone to pick me up? It seems he wants to use his relationship to escape this place as soon as possible. Gao Chang waited for Sun De Biao to hang up and asked him what to do now. The fat guy replied, now send all the forces from above to ensure that there will be no electricity problems. No one can come, things are a bit troublesome. Turning back to Wang Haoyu and the others, Wang Dahai was being applied with burn medicine, red blisters appeared on his body. As soon as the medicine was applied, he shouted, it hurts, just be gentle. The juniors also advised to go to the hospital, but how could they go to the hospital when it's hot like this? Wang Dahai with an ugly face said heavily to Wang Haoyu, don't worry, let Xiao Dao take the car, come pick us up. The guy named Xiao Dao received a call from his boss saying that he was in the underground parking garage and it was a bit hot. He told them to wait a bit and he would pass, so he immediately drove out. Not knowing that the strange light was still shining. Everywhere was burned by it, Xiao Dao wondered. It was clear that it was dark after it was already light. But it seemed like the tire had exploded due to too much heat. The car couldn't continue and had to stop on the side of the road. The junior immediately got out of the car. He was shocked. The temperature was so hot that the tire exploded. What the hell is that? He immediately called Daihai to inform them that all 4 wheels of the car had exploded. If you can't go on, you have to turn back. He quickly ran away and told everyone to figure out how to walk. But before he could take 3 steps, his shoes melted and stuck to the road surface. Xiao Dao lost his balance and fell down. He fell face down. Hot road surface. His eyes suddenly looked to the side. A group of people had been burned by the light, leaving only dry corpses. He cursed and tried to stand up, but his face was stuck by the melted asphalt. Through the phone speaker, Wang Dehai and his group could clearly hear Xiao Dao's pitiful screams. Everyone's faces were horrified, not understanding what had happened. The phone was immediately thrown to the ground, only emitting horrible sounds. Inside an air-conditioned room currently 25 degrees. Everything in here is so cool. Su Chen is sleeping comfortably on the big bed, not paying attention to what's happening outside. He rested assured that he could sleep well with his preparations ready to wait for the end of the world.